here, on the very rim of known space, justice is a long way away.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Some Junkie podcast. I, as always, am your co-host, Brian, and joining me, as always, is your co-host, Julie.
Hello from the great north where, believe it or not, it's still summer weather and global warming isn't real.
Eventually, it's always going to be summer, until the floods come. Also joining us is your co-host, Thorsten.
Hello from Germany, and we are currently under Helene.
Oh, wait, are you getting that are
the remnants of the hurricanes that went over Florida last week.
Wait, you guys are, it reached, oh my God.
No, that's standard. That's standard that those hurricanes reach us. Under various strengths, of course. Sometimes they pick up in strength a bit, but mostly not.
So wait, Helen crossed the entire Atlantic?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know they could do that.
It's mind-blowing. You have to think it. It starts as a small storm off the coast of Mexico and picks up power, and then it's eventually gets as big that it inflicts heavy weather on the whole of Europe. That's mind-blowing.
Okay. I thought you were just kidding, but damn, that's a horrible thought.
Most of the times they're much weaker, but we had heavy rains on Monday night.
From Helen. From the I mean,
that is one monster storm.
And we're about and Florida's about to get hit with another one, Milton.
That will be interesting in both ways.
Yeah, they're saying it's one of the biggest storms they've ever seen. Like maybe the fourth. Last I heard, it was like the third or fourth biggest recorded ever. Period. Anyway, sorry, you haven't tuned into Climate Talk with. Yeah. That would be. I'm sorry. That would be a whole podcast with just me saying "fuck oil companies." Anyway, goddamn fossil fuels. All right, back to it. Also joining us is your co-host, David.
Welcome to the weather forecast from Sweden, where we had rain today, and I had to clear out the storm drain in the crossing. And when I walked back to the house with a shovel in hand, I met the faces of two roe deer who looked very confused at me.
Wait.
Alan, did you too?
Oh my God. So folks, just to give you a little bit of context, as of today, as we're recording, before we get into our topic, October 9th, last week, I think it was last week, part of the southeastern part of the United States got walloped by a massive hurricane called Helen, or Helene. I don't know how you say it. Helen, we're just going to say Helen. And apparently it retained enough strength to cross the Atlantic Ocean, and now it's causing weather in Europe. Like, this is the first time I've heard about a hurricane lasting that long that crossed the entire ocean to hit another continent. So,
no. It's pretty common that this happens.
Oh, really?
Most of the hurricanes hit us, but they lost a lot of their strength.
But not this one.
Oh, this one too. I mean, the wind speeds are pretty lower than it was in the
okay, I didn't know that was common, but that still sounds crazy to me. That still sounds crazy that a storm can cross an entire ocean like that. Sounds terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Oh, man. All right. Well, folks, we are missing a couple of folks today. We're missing Spaz because he's still under the weather, and Jacob is starting uni. So his life is a little chaotic right now. So it's just the four of us. So we're going to talk about a topic I thought about the other day as I was playing Taxinaut. As I said last week on our check-in, I have been playing a lot Taxinaut. Like, it's pretty much my go-to game right now. I thought, I started thinking, I think this is a pattern for me, because I started thinking when a space game has different types of jobs available or different types of careers available, I realized I go for people moving. And so that's what got me thinking about like if I lived in the world of a space game or lived in the future or whatever. And we're going to discount the Star Trek future and assume that capitalism has followed us into the sky, and we always are going to have to work until the burning heat end of the universe. Capitalism will forever remain. I started thinking, in all these games that have different types of jobs and different careers and whatnot, I started thinking, what kind of job do I usually take on the most? It's people moving. And I started thinking, like, what's the first game I remember that had this feature? And it's probably Frontier Elite 2. Because the original Frontier, I do not believe, had passenger missions. I think it only had, like, Bounty Hunter and Trade and a few others. I don't think you could take passengers. But Frontier Elite 2 is the first game I recall where you can take passengers. And that was probably the heaviest type of mission I took in my rotation, was moving people around. And I don't know why I prefer this over goods. I don't quite know why I prefer moving people over goods. But I've noticed over the years when a game has the option to transport people, that's usually my go-to. For some, I don't quite know why. So I figured in a space game or in the future, I'd probably want to be like a taxi driver or a mercenary that has a passenger compartment. Like, I think that's one of the reasons I liked Firefly so much from Jump, is that one of the ways they made money is by taking on passengers. And so I thought that was great. So I'm not sure why I like this particular type of gameplay, but a lot of games that include it, it's kind of half-assed. Like Taxinaut is great, Frontier is great, but like a lot of times it's like, oh, we're just going to take it's like a different type of commodity. It's instead of water, you're taking people. It's like just another thing in a trade screen. So like it's rare to find a game that actually does moving people well. And I think Taxinaut's one of the best. I think Frontier Elite 2 is one of the best, because you actually have to talk to the person who you're moving around, or the people. 3030 Death War Redo does a good job of this, because sometimes you have a time limit and whatnot. So there are some games that do it well. And then I was thinking, remember when Elite Dangerous introduced giving a tour as a mission type? Remember that?
Oh yeah.
And just how stupid it was. Like it was so like everything with Elite. Good timing, Chris. Like everything with Elite. Like everything with Elite, it's half-assed and boring and doesn't really do anything. Like, these people want to see these things, and you don't get any like feedback. You don't get any like, ooh, I think wasn't there one mechanic with the Elite thing where it rated their happiness or something? I think. Been years.
It's been a while since I played Elite.
Not really.
Yeah, so there was like,
Not really.
yeah, so like you would take people on these tours and you were just going from place to place, and that was it. There was no like, you didn't hear anything from the passengers. They didn't give you any feedback or anything.
Did you maybe mean like any wrinkles? I have vague memories about that sometimes they wanted to go another direction or pick up a some kind of commodity or
yeah, maybe, but it still felt really half-assed. Like they built a whole ship around it, the Beluga, if I recall correctly. And what a crap ship that was.
Wings for days.
It's not like the beluga from Rebel Galaxy Outlaw. I will tell you that. I don't think No Man's Sky is any kind of passenger conveyance. But yeah, I was just trying to think of other games that do a good job or do a poor job, and there aren't a lot. Like there are some games where you're just moving a passenger to and fro, but like again, it's like any other commodity. It's like a pallet of water for a person. You know, it doesn't really matter. I think that's one of the reasons I love Taxi not so much is because you're going to all these different places. You can talk to you can talk to the people you're transporting. They have, you know, various conditions to get there and whatnot. So again, I think that's probably why I like Taxi not so much is because it scratches this weird itch that I didn't know I had until Frontier Elite 2 came out. And I'm like, I want to move people around. Can you guys think of any other games that have people moving that I'm not remembering? No, Wing Commander Privateer did not have passenger missions, if I recall correctly. I think that was only cargo.
It's very simple, but I do know that X3 and X4 have passenger missions, but yeah.
Oh, do they? Oh, yeah, they do. But yeah, it is very simple. You're right. They do. But yeah, there's no nuance to it. There's no.
But at least in X3, you had to buy a separate upgrade for a cargo bay to have life support in there. You don't have to do that in X4, but you can only pick one passenger, though.
You know, Disco, thank you for reminding me of Endless Sky. I keep forgetting about it because it's just under like one of the longest development periods of any game. It's been in development for so long. I keep forgetting about Endless Sky, honestly. And it's a great game. Endless Sky is a great game. I wonder if Nave has it. Probably does, because if I recall, the original Escape Velocity did have passenger missions, if I recall correctly. But yeah, I should revisit Endless Sky. It's been ages. Does it have cloud saving? It doesn't. Get it. I won't play a game anymore unless it has cloud saving.
I'm starting to feel the same.
Because I play on a desktop and a laptop, and if it doesn't have cloud saving, it's like, why? It's so easy. It's not hard to set up. I set it up for Starfleet too. It's not hard to set up. Oh, it does have Steam Cloud. Oh, well. I'm installing that shit.
It depends entirely on whether the cloud is on somebody's server connected to a switch, or the cloud is on Steam. If it's connected to a switch, I won't play the game.
Wait, what do you mean? I'm not following.
Well, if it's a cloud game and it's on Switch, you don't even have the game on your Switch. That means if they shut down the servers, you can't play the game anymore. But if it's a cloud game on Steam and you have the game and it saves, there are some games on my Switch then that I can play it on Switch, and I'm trying to think of the one it is. I'd have to go through the whole thing, but I can switch back and forth between Steam save and cloud save, and Steam save, and so depends on where the cloud is for me.
That's fair. Yeah, there are some games I have. Like, I love Diablo 3 on the Switch, but I can't always play it because it requires an internet connection. So it's really frustrating. And Chris, that's a good point. There are a couple of 4X games, like I know Distant Worlds and Galciv definitely have tourism. But I'm talking about being the pilot of the ship myself and flying people around myself. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, you're absolutely right about Endless Sky, that it has passenger missions. I forgot about that. I have to revisit it because they keep updating it. They just keep updating it. I have like 10 hours into the game. I think I might have hit the wall. I think I might have hit the limit of the content the last time I played it, which was probably a decade ago, maybe like 8, 9 years ago. So yeah, maybe I hit the wall of content that they had back then. I should revisit it because it is a great game. But yeah, so I guess if I was trapped in a space game, I would want to be a taxi driver of some kind or a mercenary with a passenger compartment. I'd want to move people around. Oh, because for some reason that scratches an itch I didn't even know I had. Yeah, that's my pick. Julie, do you have one?
I have two.
Okay.
I'll start out with the first one. Now,
Okay.
I know that you immediately kind of dismiss, and I understand why, the Star Trek thing. But to me, my interest in Star Trek has absolutely no. It's not to do with whether people get paid or don't get paid, or capitalism or not capitalism. It's entirely the military aspect.
Okay.
And in past shows, I think streams we've talked about. Well, I didn't. You did. And I just listened. And it was whenever people think about one of these universes, either Star Wars or Star Trek, they always think, I'd be a Jedi. I'd be a captain of a starship. Well, real life, being captain in the military is damn difficult. And so my first two thoughts were doing something that I could do in real life and wouldn't even need training for. And that is in the military. Uh, Star Trek is important to me because there is a human being in this world that's actually saved my life twice. So that means they're responsible for the rest of my life. And I only met them because of Star Trek. And it was a long story, won't get into it. But in the military, I thought, I used to think, it would be great to be in engineering. I said, but you never get out of engineering. What's the point of being in space? You can never see outer space, and it's like, and people have a tendency, I think because how many military and combat games there are, to aggrandize combat. And so they say, I'd be on the bridge. Well, I think really in the bridge should be like first to die kind of thing, but I don't know. So in the military, I was a non-com in Judge Advocate General's Corps. And no matter whether the people get paid or don't get paid, there will always be a need for a JAG. And even in the Star Wars universe, after that they stopped at one point, they stopped having clones, and there were just people who were stormtroopers before Order 67, I think it was issued. And so there's a need for a Judge Advocate General's Corps and someone who knows the Uniform Code of Military Justice backwards and forwards. And that, I think, is the most realistic job, because it's the kind of thing that I could just step into. And my other choice is a game. I started to play it and I was really enjoying it. But then one day I said, "Oh my God, I do this for a living." It was and I can here link it, and it's Ixion. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right or not. Here, let me.
Oh yeah,
There we go.
Ixion. Yeah, sure.
Ixion. And it is basically, for those of you who may or may not know it, the premise is human beings have finally managed to destroy the world. And the last hope of humanity is this giant arc of a spaceship. And you are basically a project manager of this spaceship. And I thought, well, that's kind of what I do for a living. And so it's like, I'm really good at this. I've been trained in it already, and it's outer space. And I said, wow, so this is kind of like my ideal job in outer space. It's like, wow, you can help save humanity, and I don't even know, have to go back to college to do it. So that's my other choice.
I got to tell you, one of the best things about more recent Star Wars is showing the bureaucracy of the Empire. Like in Andor, for example, you got to see a lot of just the bureaucracy of it, and it was fascinating.
Well, it's no part of it also is in the military is there's a different code of conduct than there is in the civilian life.
Yeah.
For example, when I was in, the definition of assault was any offensive touch, no matter how slight. And the reason to stop that is if when some drunken soldier decides he's going to go slap some female soldier in the ass. And I did the Article 13. I did the punishment for that along with, I didn't impose it. I did all the paperwork. But yeah, you have any sufficiently large group of people and you're least likely to die in the front lines. And I was in the military probably in, depending on which article you read, the 7 or 14 years in the history of the United States when we weren't actually at war with anyone. And
Oh.
I said, wow. So
Was that the
we're at
nine?
war
Was that the 90s roughly?
80s.
80s. Okay.
80s.
Oh, I mean,
So,
okay. We did have a Cold War going on, but that's not the same thing.
but you know, along the transporting things, what I've always thought would be, because I would like the idea, I've never been an over the road anything, but ever since I watched you playing Euro Trucker, and I said, wow, wouldn't it be great now, as long as the truck didn't handle like in pushing an elephant across the rug in its nose, just like a certain Star Trucker game. I used to think it was me, but I said, no, I have played a lot of space games and flown a lot of ships, and it's just the way this ship handles. Maybe part of it is because there's two hats, but I thought it would be cool to be an over the road or over the space lanes trucker if you were in civilian life. So might if just see the universe and you know, and just the problem with that though is I think it would end up being a very lonely life sometimes unless you were like had a team of people you drove with. Like I've heard about people who are husband and wife teams, things like that. But
Oh, wow.
my best choice, I think, would be Ixion because it's what I do for a living. There's a lot of stress in it, let me tell you. And just like we talked about before the show started, there's a lot of people with a lot of screws loose. But it's an interesting profession, and it doesn't get boring. It doesn't get boring too easy. And so I think Ixion would be my number one choice.
There is a game called, I think it's called Space Judge, where you're a judge in outer space that you might enjoy. It's very funny. It's a very funny game.
Oh yeah, it's very funny.
I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it's just called Space Judge.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I think it's just called Space Judge. And
Yep. No, it's exactly that game.
no, I know
And
I streamed.
replayed it,
I know I
yeah.
streamed it, but I'm not. I know I streamed it, but I'm not finding it. The court
Well,
was it
you
Space
know,
Court.
My choice
Space Court.
Space Court.
Yeah, Space Court.
My choice in the military wasn't just because of fun. It's not that I had a really fondness for the law, but
Right.
when I went to sign up, I actually was going to be a pilot first, and I passed all the tests, but they said, no, you've got your colorblind, so you can't. And it's not like I can't tell red from green. I can. It's just the wrong kind of shades. But when I went to the United States Army, they said, well, what do you want to do? I said, what do you mean? They said, we're going to let you do anything you want. I said, really? Anything? They said, yeah. They said, but if you choose Judge Advocate General's Corps, we'll pay for your college degree when you're in, and another one when you get out. I said, you got a deal. So I just kind of fell into it.
Well, you might like Space Court then. It's very funny. There is a sentient missile in it, among other people you will meet. And
hello, Melissa.
Oh, Melissa! I couldn't remember her name. I couldn't remember her name.
Oh my God! That scene is so hilarious.
Oh my God, Melissa the Missile.
Teach you phenomenology. Just like that movie. Teach you phenomenology. What was it? What was a sentient bomb?
Oh,
Dark Star. Yes, that was Dark Star.
Dark
Dark
Star.
Star. Yes,
Yeah.
teach you phenomenology.
Was 99.
I don't think I've seen that one. Is that the John is that the John
Yeah.
Carpenter one from like the mid-70s?
Yes, exactly that one, and you should watch it. It's great. Great.
I keep. Go ahead.
And you get a fear of beach balls after seeing it.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Right. You know, and it's so old. I don't think there's any risk of any spoilers at this point. But you know, at one point, the bomb is trying to decide whether or not it should be explode. At one point, it says, "And let there be light."
Oh no.
So Dark Star. That's 2 words.
Dark Star.
Yeah, I've heard of this movie. I've heard it. Yeah, 1974. I've definitely heard of this movie. Okay, it's on Prime. Good. All right. Oh, it was written by the original writer of Alien? Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Well, it's one of those kind of occult films you see, or at least what I did when I was in high school, because, you know, I was in high school when dinosaurs roamed the earth, back when cars had 426 cubic inch engines. I had one, and gasoline was 30 cents a gallon. Yes, I'm that old. And it's one of those cult films that kind of live on forever once you see it.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to make time to watch this, because I was made aware of it years ago, but I've just not gotten around to watching it. So I should fix that.
Well, Torsten's right. Once we get him back, Thorsten, you will never look at a beach ball the same way again.
Did we lose Thorsten? Oh my God, we did.
We lost Thorsten.
He disappeared.
Well, I don't think it's on purpose, but
no.
He has talked about, you know, instability in his internet connections in the past. So
Crap. Well, I hope we get him back. Crap. All right.
I do.
David, since Thorsten accidentally left, do you want to chime in with your thoughts?
What I would like to work with in a sci-fi universe with space. I haven't thought a whole lot about it, but I think I have something pretty good that I would have been would like to work with.
Okay.
How can I describe it? Used ship salesman and recycling services.
Oh, okay. That's great. I'm
thinking back to the worn down state of ships in the Star Wars universe, like they're always breaking apart and stuff. So maybe you have some spare parts. Maybe you take apart the ship for space parts. Maybe you assemble a junker and say, "Yeah, it's flight worthy," and you stand there right beside it with a thumbs up as steam are pouring out a vent or something like that. Yeah, ignore that. Yes, like that. And there was a very good game. Well, in my opinion, I think that strikes all the right notes for this, and that's got to be Sunshine Heavy Industries for sure. So
yeah, Sunshine Heavy Industries. That's a great one.
Since you are allowed for multiple solutions to each puzzle in the game, like there's no. So many puzzle games had the same issue for me where, you need to do the puzzle this way. You can only do it this way.
Exactly.
But in this game, as long as the numbers are lining up, the ship can look wildly different from player to player. So that is exactly what I'm talking about. Used ship salesman and recycling services.
But also you'd want to be like a designer of some sort. You'd also want to take the parts and put them together. You'd want to also take the parts and put them together to another ship that you could sell, basically.
And hopefully they don't explode.
Oh man, that would be fun. That would be fun. I think we've seen bits and pieces of that in science fiction here and there, like what's her name in The Mandalorian? Oh God, what's that actress's name? She runs the.
The mechanic.
Yeah, she's so great. She runs that one docking bay on
Yeah, I know the one you're
Tatooine.
referring to, but I forgot as well.
Sedaris.
I'll look it up.
What's her name? Sedaris. Sedaris. I'm blanking on her name, but yeah, she
her name is P.E. Pelimato.
There she is.
The name of the character's name.
Right. Yeah, I love her.
She runs the Mos Eisley Spaceport. Yeah,
I love her. I love her so
real
much.
name is Amy Sedaris.
Amy Sedaris. Thank you. God, I could not remember.
Sedaris, yeah.
I could not remember her first name. Yeah, she is probably one of my favorite characters in The Mandalorian. Honestly, I love that we get to see her multiple times. But yeah, it sounds like you kind of want her job a little bit.
Yeah. I guess that would fit the bill.
She seems pretty happy in her line of work. And she's good, but she's very good at what she does also. Like, I love that she basically rebuilt a Naboo fighter for Mando. That was amazing. So that would be a fun job. That would really be a fun job. Oh, okay. So we lost Thorsten. He's having some issues with his laptop. He's restarting it. So yeah,
Do you have a second profession there you want to talk about, Brian?
I'm trying to think. Like, I like people moving. I always like the idea of exploring. I probably would want to be an explorer as well. But so few space games do exploration really well, like Starflight, Star Control 2, Noctis, Starcom, of course, Starcom. But yeah, I would love to be an explorer, even though that's a very dangerous job. I did kind of like how Elite handled exploration. You can trade in exploration data for money. That was one of the few things in that game that made sense to me. Very straightforward.
And running around in the rover was fun for a short while.
Yeah, the first or second time you did it, and then I was like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And then you start thinking of the whole game as like, why am I doing this? Excuse me. So yeah, I guess if I had to if I couldn't yeah, Chris, I will give you that. No Man's Sky is excellent. I forgot about No Man's Sky with exploration. I just wish I could stick with that game for some reason. I can't stick with No Man's Sky. I need a little bit of guidance. I know No Man's Sky has missions, but for some reason I just can't stick with it. I don't even know why. You'd think I would be able to. I don't want to build anything. I don't want to craft anything. I just give me a ship and go. And I know they have creative mode where you can basically do that. But even so, I just peter out with it for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, you would think a game like No Man's Sky, which is excellent with exploration, I'd be all over it. But like, I think in creative mode, you don't have to save up for anything. You can just get basically whatever you want. So there's no struggle. Maybe that's the thing. But in regular mode where you're crafting everything, I don't want to do that much work. So I like having a balance of some kind of struggle, but I don't want that struggle to be too fiddly. Like, I don't want to have to build a crate to build a ship. You know what I mean? I don't want to build the ship. I don't want to build every little thing in the ship. You know what I mean? So I think it's the two extremes of No Man's Sky that I just can't click with. Like, you either have creative mode where there's really no struggle because you can you can get whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, and that's kind of fun for a while. And then you're like, wait, why am I doing this? And then you have the regular mode where it's like, I don't want to mine rocks. I don't want to build a thing. So I think that's why I never really clicked with No Man's Sky, even though I'm not saying it's a bad game. I just don't think, I think the two play styles in that game do not work for me. Because I don't have the patience for the crafting and whatnot. And when you take all the struggle out in creative mode, it's like, okay, why am I here? If that makes any sense. So I guess I just figured out why I can't click with No Man's Sky. Thanks for letting me talk through it, you guys.
Yeah, fire, absolutely.
But
there's
go ahead.
Well, there's a lot of games that, when you play the game, it's one thing, but when you think about it in context of real life, for example, uh, my sister once saw a bumper sticker that said the hardest thing about a zombie apocalypse is pretending I'm not excited. But realistically, and as much as I play Final Fantasy 14, we have a regular group Sunday night. It's been going on for a couple of years now. And yes, you're always welcome to join if you want. It's Sunday night, 6:30 p.m. Central. But the thing is, you were always the center of attention, right? And that's how if you're playing Skyrim, how can everybody be the Dovahkiin? And realistically, in a world you go back with swords and sorcery, my first thought would be, where's the internet? And so, well, there's no internet. What do you mean there's no internet? I want to go to the movies. There is no such thing as movies. What? What? And, realistically, in Final Fantasy 14 and any of the swords and sorcery things, I would be bored out of my mind. And even in Final Fantasy 14, I reached the end of the expansion just before the one came out. And, you've been traveling around with all these friends called the Scions, the Scion group, I think it's pronounced. But, at one point they all get together and said, well, guess we're done. I said, what? So, okay, we're all going our separate ways. I said, what? And it's like, the guy's been playing the longest has to relax. It doesn't last but more quest until we get involved with everybody again. But that's the thing is, realistically, there are a lot of games that I wouldn't want to have anything to do with in real life. And the problem with doing anything is also I ask myself, like in the profession I'm in now, I can do it as long as my mind works, my eyes work, and my hands work. And even so, the head of one of our divisions, his eyes don't work anymore. He heads a division, but that's the thing is, I studied administration. I took a course in it, police administration in college, from the guy who wrote what's called the Blue Book, and he described being a police officer as 10% terror and 90% boredom. And I think we're used to seeing.
Is that for the officers or for their victims?
For the no, I think for the victims it would be 100% terror. But now, to be fair, not everybody in the police force is like that. But I guess one bad apple does spoil a whole bunch. And I live in the burbs of Chicago, so I know what you mean, where that comes from. And it's easy. The problem is like trust. Once you lose trust, it's almost impossible to get back. And I've encountered I've been on the bad end of police forces before too. I was a victim and they blamed me. But the thing is every time we play a game like this, you're always almost always the center of the universe. And unless it's you install the mod in Skyrim says you're not the Dovahkiin, which the latest playthrough I've done, and just anything that has to do with the main quest line, I said no, forget, not interested. But you have to save us. You're on your own. And I think that's the problem is people talk about living in they fantasize about how great it would be. And if you've never been in the military, I was in the military, and there was stretches of it's incredibly easy, at least when I was in. And granted, I wasn't I was in a combat unit, but never had to see combat. But it was incredibly easy to get lost in a crowd. And there is nothing quite so isolating as being in another country when you don't speak the language. And I think about, gee, wouldn't it be great to be in the military and be in Star Trek? And everybody thinks about being, you're right. Everybody said, oh, I'd be a Jedi. Oh, I'd be on the Starship Enterprise. But chances are you wouldn't end up in the Starship Enterprise. Chances are, you'd end up on some small destroyer that you'd go out and you'd never see a port anywhere for 6 months at a time. And so I I think my ideal being involved in any universe is a lot different than what I would be willing to do in real life. And I guess that's why I chose Ixion, because I know that's something varied enough so I wouldn't reach the point where I say, I'm just going to shoot myself out in the airlock. But even so, no matter what you do, I've been doing what I do for a living for 30 years. And there are days when I just moon the computer. I call my boss and I say, I'm done. She says, what do you mean you're done? I said, I'm done. So anything, no matter what it is, can get boring and tedious. And
No, that's a good point.
so
That's a good point. I do love how most people would be fantasizing. They're like, I'm going to be a Jedi and I'm going to be a starship captain. No, you're not. You're going to be the guy down in the pit of the Star Destroyer checking the IFF codes while someone else is the captain, if you're lucky. You're going to be down the bowels working on the hyperdrive. That's what you're going to be doing.
how about in a universe where you could be a teacher, where whether it was in the Star Trek Academy or where they're teaching magic, or when I think about she who shall not be named because she didn't invent that kind of universe, there are others like it, but one of the main characters in that universe works for the Ministry of Magic, and I appreciate the fact that there's bureaucracy involved in that. And it's kind of like, yeah, I can see there being a lot of bureaucracy involved in that, and that's why I appreciate in Star Trek Online, not Star Trek Online, in Star Trek, when they talk some of the later shows, you can see what's actually involved in running someplace. And it's like Deep Space Nine. It's like, well, yeah, nobody really goes anywhere. It's just all right there. So I guess I really brought this whole thing down. I'm really sorry.
No, you didn't bring anything down. No, you did not bring anything down. It is kind of, it is fun to think about, but sometimes you got to do a little cold water and be like, yeah, I have it pretty good now. Like, imagine if we lived in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. I wouldn't be working in SEO. I'd probably be one of the 10,000 souls that was fed to the Emperor every day. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be lucky enough to have a decent job. So, I mean, it's all about balance, I guess. Oh yeah, Disco brings up a good point. There's that one episode of TNG called Tapestry, where he doesn't take the risks as a younger man and finds himself a science officer on the Enterprise rather than its captain. That would probably have been me.
Well, also, when you talk about being a taxi driver, I don't think you mentioned Cloudpunk.
Oh, Cloudpunk. That's a great one. That's a great one.
I don't know if you ever end up delivering anything but packages, but it's in the same vent as.
Oh no, I think you drive people around, don't you? I think so. You do. I think. I don't remember now. I finished the base game of Cloudpunk. It's one of the few games I finished. I still have to do the expansion, but Cloudpunk is great. It is just great.
I am very much a virtual tourist, and so I'm looking at my Steam page here, and as I look at these games, I say I have played like the first few hours of every game here. And I think there is the only game I think I've ever finished all the way is Portal, the first one. And yes, the cake is real.
Wow, you're more of a tourist than I am. I've at least finished a game or two here and there.
And Dort's back. Yay!
Hey!
Welcome back.
Yay!
Oh wow! What happened?
This got started an update in the middle and when I was talking. Great.
Ah, dang it.
That happens. That happens a lot of the times. I don't know what's going on here.
There's got to be a way to turn. There's got to be a way to turn that off, right? Like I don't. Mine doesn't do automatic updates.
Yeah, I'm totally surprised that it does happen now at this time. Honestly, I don't get it. Why?
I'm sorry,
because
man.
They had a completely different time.
Well, you're back.
Okay.
So now hit us with your ideal job in a space game universe.
Okay. In contrast to Julie, my military career did involve some stuff, and my previous dream job would be mercenary. But obviously, by now, and at this stage in my life, I've got to say, no, I don't want that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that for a living. No, not really.
I played Soldier of Fortune. I saw the crappy life that our mercenary leads.
I want to be a hell diver, dive from orbit.
Oh yeah, great. Great idea. Then I thought about something Julie said before about Star Tracker and Lonely Life. It would be ideal for me, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Because I enjoy being alone, and I don't want to be a real life trucker, to be honest. No, that wouldn't be a job for me either. What happened with Elite Dangerous, and I'm coming back now to the beginning of the podcast, is I did a lot of passenger transports in Elite Dangerous too.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed it a lot. And I had a second occupation I enjoyed a lot because I did it like in real life. And that was mail delivery. And you could make a lot of money if you do it like in real life. I mean, obviously, it's not the best paid job in the game, but if you took enough contracts and planned it accordingly, you could actually make money with it. Problem was after 12 hours doing that all day and doing that again for several hours in a video game broke me a bit, to be honest.
I can't blame you. I can't blame you.
Yeah, I stopped doing that too. Especially as the first in-game employers told me that I should be faster. And that didn't bode well for me. So my actual dream job is a shipbreaker.
You know what? I thought as soon as I thought of this topic, this is what I thought you were going to say. I'm sorry, but I thought you were, Thorsten is going to say breaking up ships. I know that's what he's going to say.
It was. And it was totally clear for me that you would say transporting passengers. It was obvious after
I know. I'm an open book. I know.
Taxi not so often.
I know, right? No. But
yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you really clicked with hard space shipbreaker.
Yeah, I enjoyed so much breaking these ships apart and doing all the stuff, and I mean, I've played it several times. I've played the main campaign several times through by now, and
wow,
I really enjoyed doing this job. And again, if something like that would be available in real life, I would take it. even with all those negative connotations implied with it, like giving up your original body and all that stuff, and being in debt for all the time.
Yeah, right.
But I really wanted to do that.
It is
seriously.
David, you're right. It is a shame that Shipbreaker never. I thought it was a hit. I'm surprised there wasn't like any kind of expansion or DLC or anything. Maybe we'll get a sequel at some point because I thought it did well. I could have sworn I heard that it did really well.
I mean, there are still streamers out there that stream it regularly. So
Wow.
I guess it should bode well with most people. And again, I'm surprised too that we didn't get a DLC for the game, which is a bit sad. But I hope for a second part.
I mean, yeah, maybe they felt they told a complete story and didn't know how to add to it. I mean, that's possible. You know, I would just give me a roguelike mode with randomly generated hulks to cut up. Just give me that. Nothing story based or anything. Yeah, just give me like a good idea, yeah, just give me a roguelike thing where it just gets more and more difficult, and then that's all you need to do. You know, that would be a DLC I would pay for. Absolutely. But maybe go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, there would be a second occupation I would do, and that is repairing stuff in space. There was a game, and the original concept was pretty good, and that was Space Mechanics Simulator.
I was just thinking to that one.
Problem with that is the original dev passed away, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the way it was finished by other guys wasn't the original vision of the game.
Yeah, it did not feel right. It did not feel right at all to play that game. It felt, I don't know what exactly felt off about it, but it just did not feel right. Like I had more fun fixing things in objects in space in your ship than I did in that mechanic simulator game. And that's the whole point of that game.
yeah, fully agree.
So
yeah, that were my points.
So you either want to rip ships apart or put them back together. That's basically what you want to do.
Yep, that's my dream jobs.
Oh man, those are good ones. Those are good ones. Well, I think we've covered everything, and we got about an hour out of this. Good job, everybody.
Heck yeah.
So next week on the show, folks, we're going to talk about UI and UX, user interfaces and the user experience. I thought about this because after playing Stardeus, I keep wanting to call it Stardew, but it's Stardeus, the other day, I remembered like how much the UI and Clanfolk made me cry because it was so good. And I'm like, wait, we haven't talked about this. We haven't talked about UI, and it's such an important part of a good game that we should talk about it, because I've seen games completely fall apart because of a bad UI and a bad user experience. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. And tomorrow we'll be back with more Truck Simulator. Can't wait for that. So have a great day, everyone. Be safe, be well, take care of each other. Please get vaccinated if you haven't already. I can't believe I have to keep saying this, but we're still in a pandemic. I was listening to a stand-up comedian the other day, and just a little tangent. And he was talking about how after a show, he went to like a restaurant across the street, and he was wearing his mask to walk through the restaurant. And the waiter was like, "Is that COVID thing back?" I'm like, oh no. Is that COVID thing back? It never left. It's always, oh God. Anyway, please wear your masks.
I know we can't hear a face palm, but yeah.
Yeah, please wear your masks. Get your shots. Just do what you need to do to protect yourself and others. Thank you, as always, to our patrons who help pay for things like Restream Chat so we can all talk to each other. And And yeah, as David just said in the chat, always remember to wear your helmet. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.